What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. This is my full card breakdown and prediction video for UFC Vancouver. We have Reiner Ritter going against Brendan Allen. Getting right back into it here, breaking down a very good card. Very good fight night card here in Canada. Can't wait to break down all 13 fights. Before we do so, if you guys could do me a couple favors, like the video. One small like goes a very long way. Let's try to get those likes up for this week. And leave me a comment. If you leave me a comment, not only does it help the algorithm, but you could potentially get featured on Comment of the Week, which we'll touch on Comments of the Week very shortly here. Can't wait to get into that. And then also subscribe. If you guys enjoy the content, if you guys watch the content, be sure to subscribe. Trying to reach 30K by the end of the year. We're less than 400 away, so we got to get it. We got to get it by 2026. All right. With all that out of the way, I say we get into Comments of the Week. Woo! Comments of the Week. And this week, there wasn't about to be a comment of the week because there really weren't a ton of comments sticking out, to be honest. But it was one of the last comments that were commented. And we do got to shout out my guy Jamie Z. Shout out to Jamie Z. And Jamie Z makes comment of the week. Only one comment this week. And I've been doing YouTube going on about 8 years. It's going to be 8 years next year, and this has to be one of the dumbest comments I think I've ever seen. I want to kind of break it down frame by frame. So shout out to Jamie Z. He says, messed up. I had as well and took him off because you claiming Almeida had broken hand. Jamie Z. What the hell do you mean claiming? Almeida had broken hand. What do you mean you claiming Almeida had broken hand? He literally had a broken hand. Jamie. Then he says, I was afraid fight would get canceled. Okay, you were afraid fight would get canceled. I never said the fight's canceled. Then he says, dumb people. I would have scored some good points. Well, you would have, Jamie. You would have. And you should have done what most people would have done. Just play more Michael Aswell. Almeida had a broken hand. Why are you blaming it on me? Jamie Z, shout out to you for one of the dumbest fucking comments I've ever seen in my entire life. Shout out to Jamie Z. Comment of the week. You got it done. Congrats. Can't wait to see who's featured on Comment of the Week next week. But before we do that, we got to get into some fights. And we got Tainara Lisboa going against Melissa Crodin to kick off the night. We got a line flip. The line flipped. Crodin was a dog, a pretty decent-sized dog. I think she was opened up around like plus 150. Now she's sitting at a minus 130 price tag, and then Tainara Lisboa opened up the favorite, and now she's sitting, of course, as a slight underdog here. So this is one of the first fights I taped. I kind of wanted to get it out of the way. I didn't know much about Melissa Crodin. Kind of wanted to see what she's all about, and yeah, I mean, I wasn't extremely impressed, but what I did like was she got that dog in her, which I always like that. She's a very tough chick. She's going to come forward the entire time. Has a lot of heart. She's going to push you against the cage, very strong in the clinch. And if she can get you down, and she does have some sneaky grappling, and she does have some very good ground and pound as well. So, I don't think she's the best fighter in the world by any means, but they're bringing her in here, in Canada, trying to get her a win. And she's going against Tainara Lisboa, who I'm just not completely sure about. I'm not really sure what Tainara Lisboa really is. You see her, she has two belts right there. Two belts, and I don't know. I mean, she claims she's a striker, but I haven't really seen much striking, to be honest, in the UFC. She's typically grappling, and it's like she's having some success in the grappling realm. Against Jessica Rose Clark, she's able to get a third-round submission, but we've also seen her taken down and controlled, and we saw her get subbed in her last fight. So I'm just not sure where Lisboa is really that great. She should, in theory, have a striking advantage here. Melissa Crodin, at distance, she does block punches with her face, but I kind of feel like it's going to be a little bit of a dogfight. I kind of feel like Crodin's going to push forward, push Lisboa against the cage, and if she can take her down, I think she has a good chance to potentially even finish her. So I am liking Crodin here. I liked her much better at an underdog price tag, but I think people are kind of seeing what I'm seeing in terms of I think Crodin has a good chance to win this fight. So give me Melissa Crodin. I'll take her to win this fight by decision, and I think she kicks off the night with a Canadian win. Up next, we got Azamat Bekoev going against Jerzy Belgaroui. We got Bekoev, who is minus 280, and Belgaroui is plus 240. So I'm not the highest on Bekoev. I know he's started to gain a little bit of hype. He has 2 wins in the UFC, 2 first-round knockouts, knocked out Ryan Loder, knocked out poor Zachary Reese. But I still have question marks, about the cardio, about when fights kind of get extended. We've seen him slow down, and we haven't seen him outside of the first round in the UFC thus far. And I think that might probably change here against Belgaroui, who's not a bum by any means. I mean, this guy has a kickboxing background. This guy's a win over Alex Pereira in kickboxing. I think he went 1-2 against Alex Pereira. He's fought Israel Adesanya in kickboxing as well, and this guy's huge. I mean, this guy's 6'5". He's going to have a 5-inch reach or height advantage. He's going to have a 7-inch reach advantage. And on the feet, if Azamat wants to F around a little bit, we could see Belgaroui do some good work on the feet. But what I think Bekoev is going to do in this match, what he absolutely should do, is resort to the wrestling, because we have seen him wrestle outside the UFC. Inside the UFC, he hasn't really needed to. But outside the UFC, I've seen him take guys down. He has really good control. He has a sneaky submission game as well. And that's what you got to do here against Belgaroui, who is massive, who is a good striker, who has great volume, has some power as well. So yeah, I think Bekoev should win this fight as long as he comes in here with the right game plan. And to be honest, I can see him winning by any method. I can see him winning a decision, mixing in the takedowns. I could see him potentially even getting a knockout on the feet. Like, Bekoev has a lot of power. We've seen that. And I also think a submission could potentially be on the table if he does take the grappling path that I expect. But definitely leaning Bekoev here. I think he has all the tools to win this fight. Give me Azamat Bekoev to win this fight and win it by decision. Up next, we got Stephanie Luciano going against Ravenna Oliveira. We got Luciano, another big favorite, -280. Oliveira is sitting as a +240 underdog. And yeah, so this one's a one that I'm completely staying away from. So one thing I want to mention is Oliveira is coming down 2 weight classes. She fought at bantamweight against Tainara Lisboa. She lost that fight, but she's coming down 2 weight classes to strawweight. And I think that's really important because, this is her debut at strawweight. We haven't seen her here at this weight class before. She had plenty of fights at flyweight, but I didn't see really any fights at strawweight. So making her debut at strawweight. And another massive thing we got to mention is we have not seen Ravenna Oliveira in 2 years. And, oftentimes when we see these younger fighters in their 20s, take a year and a half, 2 years or more off, they come back and they kind of look unrecognizable. We've seen it with Melissa Gatto, for example. Gatto looked horrible outside the UFC. She took 2-3 years off. She came back and looked like an absolute killer. So that's kind of what's worrying me here. There's not a lot of footage out there on Oliveira. There wasn't a lot of footage out there prior to the Lisboa fight. And I feel like even with the Lisboa fight, we didn't really learn a ton because she's fighting up a bantamweight against a much bigger fighter. So I got to go Luciano here. I actually really like Luciano. I like the volume, the cardio, the takedown defense looks to be getting better. But, Oliveira has a path here. Like, if Oliveira is able to get takedowns, she could potentially win some rounds and potentially win the fight. But from what I've seen with my own eyes, Luciano's the much better fighter. I just worry that if Oliveira has made improvements, and a lot of improvements, Luciano might not look quite -280. So it's definitely one that I'm sitting back and watching. But I'll take Luciano to stuff the takedowns, do the much better work on the feet because the striking is probably not close. We'll land a lot more volume and probably pick up a decision. So give me Stephanie Luciano to win. Stephanie Luciano to win by decision. Up next, we got Drew Dober going against Kyle Prepolec. We got Drew Dober -550. Kyle Prepolec is +400. So believe it or not, Drew Dober is the biggest favorite on the card. And the reason that he's the biggest favorite is because he's fighting Kyle Prepolec. Like, if Drew Dober lost to Kyle Prepolec, it'll be by far and away his worst loss ever. Like, I can't think of a worse loss than Kyle Prepolec. Like, it's probably his worst loss in over 10 years, Drew Dober. So, it's really a guy in Prepolec who he should be beating. The problem is, and my concern is, especially when we're talking about -550, because that's a massive price tag. My concern is I think Drew Dober is approaching the wash territory. And this guy's 36, right? We can't blame him. 36 years old, and he's had, 42 fights. This is going to be his 43rd fight. And it's kind of like a Vicente Luque situation where, Luque had a lot of fights, Dober has a lot of fights. But anytime Luque fought, anytime Dober fights, it's always a war. It's always a slugfest. He's eating one to give one. He's relying on that chin, and Drew Dober always has had one of the best chins in the UFC until a couple fights ago when his chin finally cracked against Matt Frevola. And once that chin cracks, it goes. Once that durability goes, it goes fast, and it gets worse and worse and worse. And now we're seeing, Gene Silva knock him out with the doctor stoppage. We're seeing Manuel Torres knock him out in a minute. We're seeing Drew Dober start to finally get knocked out. So I'm very concerned about Drew Dober going forward. But in this matchup, I'm still a little bit concerned, but I think he'll be all right just because the skill gap between these two is so massively in favor of Drew Dober. Kyle Prepolec, he does hit hard, but he doesn't hit as hard as Gene Silva, anywhere near it. Doesn't hit anywhere near as hard as Manuel Torres. Doesn't hit as hard as Matt Frevola. So I'm thinking Drew Dober's chin does hold up, but going forward, I have my serious concerns, and going forward, I will be looking to fade Drew Dober, just not quite with Kyle Prepolec. What I'm going to be doing is staying as far away from this fight as possible, picking Drew Dober to win, and I'm going to take Dober to win this fight by decision just because Kyle Prepolec, I think he is very durable. Prepolec's never been knocked out in 27 fights, and I think, believe it or not, at this stage of both their careers, Kyle Prepolec's probably the more durable fighter in this matchup. But I'm going to take Drew Dober to win this fight by decision, just being the more skillful fighter. I wouldn't be shocked if Drew Dober mixing some takedowns. We've seen Kyle Prepolec taken down 1,000,000 times throughout his career. So, yeah, I think Drew Dober should win this fight. Minus 550, it's kind of stupid, to be honest, but, Dober should beat this guy. Up next, we got Danny Barlow going against Jourdain Santos. We got Barlow minus 300 to Jourdain Santos plus 250. So Barlow is coming off of a knockout loss to Sam Patterson, and I don't hold that loss against him. I think that loss has aged well, and it's going to continue to age very, very well. Sam Patterson is very good. Patterson's a very good and very dangerous fighter. So, getting knocked out by Patterson, was it a surprise? Yes. But was it the worst look in the world? No. The Jourdain Santos lost to Ozzy Diaz. Was that a surprise? Yes. Was that the worst look in the world? Yes. Losing to Ozzy Diaz over the course of 15 minutes, that's very bad, because I think Ozzy Diaz is probably the, one of the worst fighters in the middleweight division. So if you're losing to Ozzy Diaz, you're probably the worst fighter in the middleweight division. And I remember taping Santos for a Contender Series against Will Curry, and I thought, although I've always thought that Will Curry was extremely overrated. Will Curry kind of stinks. I thought Will Curry should be able to beat this guy. Kind of felt like the UFC was even doing him a favor, giving him to Jourdain Santos, who, I'm just not sure what he's good at. He has really good volume, but doesn't have any power. He has some grappling, but he's not great at wrestling. It should have been a very winnable, easy fight for Will Curry, and Will Curry was like minus 300 in that fight, and then Will Curry crapped the bed because it's Will Curry. And I'm like, okay, Dana better not sign this guy. If Dana signs the Jourdain Santos, it's going to be the worst signing of the year, and he signs the Jourdain Santos to a contract, and it's like, okay. And now he's losing to Ozzy Diaz. So, if you're Danny Barlow, coming off a loss, he's coming up a weight class here, you can't be losing to the Jourdain Santos. It's just going to be a very bad look. We can forgive you for losing to Sam Patterson. If you lose to Jourdain Santos, you're probably not a UFC caliber fighter, and I think Barlow is a UFC caliber fighter. Barlow has UFC wins, which I don't think the Jourdain Santos will probably ever get a UFC win. He beat Nikolai Veretennikov, Josh Quinlan. So, yeah, I got to go Barlow. He should win this fight, but yeah, he really should beat this guy. So give me Danny Barlow, and I think he finds a knockout. We saw Ozzy Diaz wobbling Santos all across the cage in that third round. Santos, he is durable, but he does eat a lot of punches, and eating punches against somebody with as much power as Danny Barlow, I think is going to kind of be a recipe for disaster. So I'm going to take Danny Barlow to win this fight. I'll take Barlow to win this fight by second round knockout. Up next, we have probably one of my favorite fights on the prelims here. It is Hung Sung Park going against Bruno Silva. We got Hung Sung Park minus 220. Bruno Silva is plus 185. So, yeah, this is a good fight here. It's a very violent flyweight fight. Both these guys are extremely dangerous wherever the fight goes. And to be honest, if this fight was, maybe, a year and a half, 2 years ago, I would probably be on the Bruno Silva side, at plus 185, because, Park, he's still very unproven. He hasn't fought the best competition, And when we did see him take a big step up against Tatsuro Taira, it just didn't look like he belonged. He got dropped in the first round, almost finished, and then he got submitted easily in the second round. So he went out there and he beat Carlos Hernandez, who I think got cut. He beat Shannon Ross, who I know got cut. He beat Sunguk Choi, who I don't think is on the roster. And then he's beating some, road to UFC fighters. So it's kind of hard to gauge where Hong Sung Park is. He can go out there and beat these bums, but, can't beat, the top guys in the division like Tatsuro Taira, and quite frankly can't even really, hang with one of them like Tatsuro Taira. Like, the fight didn't look remotely competitive. So I think we're going to find out a lot about Hong Sung Park here, because Bruno Silva, he's not in that elite, Tatsuro Taira category, but he's also not a bum like Shannon Ross type thing. So I think he's kind of in the middle. So, but yeah, I'm worried about Bruno Silva. This guy's 35 years old, which for, these lower weight classes, that's getting up there. He's taken a lot of damage, and he's taken a lot of damage, especially in these last couple fights. I mean, Josh Fan put the ultimate beating on him. That fight should have been stopped on several different occasions. It finally was stopped in the third round. Bruno Silva got dropped 3 or 4 times. He absorbed 125 significant strikes. Manel Kopp put it on him, put over 100 significant strikes on him. Manel Kopp dropped him and finished him. We saw even Cody Durden, doing some really good work in the first 7.5 or so minutes of that fight until he came back and knocked out Durden. But, Silva's been getting into some wars. He's been taking a lot of damage. I've never thought the cardio was that great of Silva. I've never thought the durability was that great of Silva. Now he's getting older and older and taking more of that damage. So, yeah, it's a tough one to call. I think Park still has a lot to prove, but he's a younger guy. He's dangerous everywhere. He has solid striking, good volume, a lot of power for a flyweight, and then he has some of the slickest grappling. You'll see if he can get it down to the mat. So I'm going to side with Hong Sung Park to get it done. I think he's going to kind of put it on Bruno Silva more and more as the fight goes on. I feel like he needs to show up like he did in the Carlos Hernandez fight. In that Hernandez fight, he looked better than ever. He was pressuring. He was landing kicks to the body. He looked incredible against Carlos Hernandez. If he pressures like that, I think he's going to finish Bruno Silva as the fight goes on. So give me Hong Sung Park to win this fight. I think it's going to be like a third round. Could be a KO, could be a sub. I think it's going to be a third round finish for Hong Sung Park there, though. Up next, we got Charles Jourdain going against Davey Grant. Got a very fan-friendly fight here. And it's a good fight. Charles Jourdain is sitting as a -170 favorite, and we got Davey Grant sitting as a +145 underdog. So I do think the fight's going to play out a little bit closer than the line does indicate, but I like the fact that Jourdain's fighting at home. I think that's huge. If this is a close fight and it goes to decision and it goes into the hands of the crooked, blind, corrupt judges, they're probably going to give it to the hometown guy. The crowd's going to be behind Jourdain. They're going to be behind, people like Jourdain. He's a fan favorite. People like this guy. I think if it goes to decision and it's close, it's going to be, going to Jourdain. So I like that for Jourdain. And the judges also hate Davey Grant. I thought Davey Grant beat Daniel Marcos. I thought that fight was actually pretty easy to score in favor of Davey Grant, but they gave it to Daniel Marcos. And then I also thought Davey Grant potentially even beat Adrian Yanez, and the judges gave it to Yanez. So the judges hate Davey Grant. I don't like that. I don't like the fact that Davey Grant is 39 years old. With that said, Davey Grant's been looking great. But the fall-off's going to happen soon. You can't fight forever. Father Time is undefeated. And Grant's not going to be going out here at bantamweight at 40 years old and looking great, for much longer. You can't expect that to happen. We haven't really seen any flyweight, bantamweight, featherweight, these lower weight classes at 40 years old have a ton of success. We just don't really see it. It's just not really a thing. Jourdain's 10 years younger. I think that's huge. And I think Jourdain's probably getting Davey Grant at the right time. So although I do think it's competitive, I think there's a lot of reasons to like Jourdain. I see why money's coming in on Jourdain. I personally am not going to be laying -170 on him, but in terms of picking a winner here, I got to go with the Jourdain side. Give me Charles Jourdain to win this fight and win it by decision. Up next, we have an absolute banger. Matt Frevola going against Kyle Nelson. This fight's going to be fun, man. We got Matt Frevola -120, Kyle Nelson +100. And there's a couple pick'em type fights on this card. And I think there's 3 pick'em type fights. And this is one of them where it's tough to predict this fight. It's very tough to predict Matt Frevola fights. So, the big narrative this week is, Matt Frevola is going to wrestle. And anytime I hear somebody say that, I just laugh because, he just doesn't wrestle. Like, he hasn't wrestled since like 2019, and he's mixing some takedowns here or there. Like, he got a takedown or two against Benoit Saint Denis. He got like one takedown against Fares Ziam. But it's the last time we saw Matt Frevola go out there and commit to a 15-minute wrestling heavy game plan was literally back in 2019. It's been like 6 years. So I don't think Matt Frevola is going to go out there and wrestle for 15 minutes and hump Kyle Nelson's leg. I don't think that's going to happen, because I've been expecting that to happen for the last 6 years, and it hasn't happened. If it's not going to happen within the last 6 years, it's probably never going to happen. What I think is going to happen here, and what we see Matt Frevola do oftentimes, is swing his dick. Go out there and swing his dick. He swung his dick against Drew Dober, and he knocked him out. He swung his dick against Otman Azaitar, and he knocked him out. He swung his dick against General Valdez, and he knocked him out 6 times. So yeah, I think he's going to swing dicks with Kyle Nelson, and I think it's going to come down to who has the bigger dick. And I'm not sure. I think they're pretty similar in size. So Kyle Nelson, I'm probably the biggest Kyle Nelson hater out there, man. Like, I've always looked to fade this guy. I never thought the cardio was good. I never thought the heart, the toughness, the durability was good. But, he's proved me wrong, plenty of times. Kyle Nelson has a lot of power. Both these guys have a lot of power. Both these guys have questionable durability. Both these guys are coming off of brutal knockouts. Steve Garcia brutally TKO'd Kyle Nelson. Fares Ziam, out of all people, brutally KO'd Matt Frevola. Fares Ziam is knocking out nobody ever. Like, that's probably going to be Fares Ziam's only finish ever in the UFC, and it was against Matt Frevola, so the chins are both in question. So I don't know. I mean, this fight, I think, should be a pick'em. I know Matt Frevola, in theory, has massive upside with the wrestling, but I don't think he's going to do it. So I think it's going to come down to who lands first, who has the better chin, who has the better durability, and I think the guy with the better chin's probably Kyle Nelson. But I don't know. I think somebody's going to get served here. I think somebody's going to get served in very brutal fashion. I'm going to take Kyle Nelson for the slight upset to land that big shot. I just don't trust the chin of Matt Frevola. I think it's going to be a Kyle Nelson KO1. But if it gets out of the first round, we could see Frevola start to take over type thing. But I think it probably ends in the first round, to be honest, especially if these guys stand and bang. So I'm going to take Kyle Nelson to win. I'm going to take Kyle Nelson to win by first round knockout. Up next, we got Cody Gibson going against Aoriqileng. We got Cody Gibson minus 185, Aoriqileng plus 160. So a lot of monies came in on Cody Gibson throughout the week. I want to say he was like minus 130-ish whenever I looked into this fight earlier in the week, and monies came in on him, and I think the reason for that being is he just has a very clear path here. Cody Gibson, he is 38 years old, getting up there in age for the bantamweight division, but it's just hard to not see the big grappling edge he has in this fight. I mean, you take a look at Aoriqileng, this guy's getting taken down by pretty much everybody. I mean, I remember when, even like Jay Perrin. I mean, if Jay Perrin's taking you down, I think we might have a little bit of a problem, Aoriqileng. I mean, this guy's a 58% takedown defense, taken down 5 times by Durden, which again, that's no shame in that. Getting taken down 4 times by Johnny Munoz, not the best look. Getting taken down 3 times by Rob Rosas Jr., that's no shame in that, but getting taken down 3 times by Jay Perrin, not good. Absolutely not good. I mean, if Jay Perrin's taking you down, like a gust of wind can probably take you down. So, and yeah, Gibson can wrestle. Gibson will wrestle, and I think that should be the game plan, and I think that will be the game plan. So yeah, as long as Gibson fights smart and goes out there, goes for takedowns, I think it could look a little bit like the Chad and Helliger fight where Cody Gibson went out there, took down Chad and Helliger 5 times, went 5 for 6 on takedowns, controlled Chad and Helliger for over 12 minutes of that fight, and won a decision. So I'm kind of seeing it the same way. The path is there. Let's see if he takes it. Give me Cody Gibson to win this fight and win it by decision. I think the line's getting a little bit too wide for my liking at this point because I do question the fight IQ of Gibson. I question the cardio a little bit of Gibson at times, and I also question the fact that he is getting up there in age a little bit. But I see why money has came in on him throughout the week. But yeah, give me Gibson by decision. Up next, we have a banger. We got Mana Fiora going against Jasudavicius. We got Fiora minus 220, Jasudavicius plus 185. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this fight. Whoever wins this fight, you're going to be fighting for. I mean, if Jasmine wins this fight, she's going to be fighting for a title next. I mean, I don't see it really any other way. She's been on fire. She's been looking good. And, I wasn't too excited about Jasmine when she first came into the UFC. she still looked a little bit green. I didn't think she was, the best fighter in the world. And I remember her fight, I believe it was against Kay Hansen in her debut. And it wasn't the best look in the world. She went to a very close competitive decision with Kay Hansen, winning that fight, but I wasn't ultimately that impressed. And then she loses to Natalia Silva, and I kind of wrote her off after that. But, she's put on a very good run, and I think after that Cortez fight, she just kind of really flipped a switch. After that Cortez fight, I saw so many improvements out of Jasmine. I kind of saw like a different mentality. Like, she's taking fighters down, and not only is she taking fighters down, but she's mean on top. She's very mean on top. Her ground and pound's nasty. I'm surprised she has 0 TKOs in the UFC. She probably should have like 2 TKOs. She probably should have got a TKO in the De Silva fight. She definitely should have got at least 5 TKOs against Priscilla Cachoeira, but, she ended up tapping them both out, with an anaconda and a Darce. And then she got a rear naked choke in her last fight against Jessica Andrade, running through Jessica Andrade, but that's not easy to do. So, Jasmine's the real deal. There's no doubt in my mind that Jasmine is absolutely the real deal, and she needs to go now. She's 36, and she is going now. This is a must-win fight for Jasmine Jasudavicius. And it's a tricky fight to call. I'm kind of surprised that the line is this wide because, Manon Fiorot, is she going to have the striking advantage? Absolutely. Does she have really good takedown defense? Absolutely. It's 87%. But we haven't really seen Manon's takedown defense tested that much. Mara Bueno Silva, is really never wrestling. I think Mara Bueno Silva has landed like 1 or 2 takedowns her entire career prior to that fight. We saw Tabitha Ricci, who's a strawweight, come in on short notice, not really try to take her down. Victoria Leonardo, not really going to try to take you down. Caitlin Chukagan, not really going to try to take you down. Same thing with Rose. And I guess the one fighter that should be trying to test her takedown defense and take her down would be Erin Blanchfield. But Blanchfield kind of showed up with one of the worst game plans I've ever seen in my entire life, where Blanchfield attempted 3 half-assed takedowns over the course of 25 minutes. So Shevchenko went for a couple takedowns. Shevchenko went 2 for 9 on takedowns. But yeah, outside of that, we're not really seeing people really test that takedown defense of Fiorot, which, again, I think she has good takedown defense. I think she has very strong hips. I think she has really good footwork, so it's not going to be easy to get in and shoot in on her. But, I think Jasmine can get takedowns. I think Jasmine's one of the strongest fighters in the division, very physically strong. I think Manon's strong as well, but this could be a case of Jasmine literally needs 2 takedowns to win this fight. If she can get 2 takedowns to win this fight and win 2 rounds, I think she can do it. Because once Fiorot's on her back, she's probably staying there. Once Valentina got her down, she stayed there. And if Jasmine gets you down, you're not only staying there, but you're going to eat a ton of punishment off your back. So, yeah, I guess it comes down to whether or not Jasmine's able to get takedowns. I lean towards her getting takedowns, and I'm leaning towards her getting takedowns in 2 out of the 3 rounds. But we'll see. This is a big step up in competition for Jasmine. It's a very big step up in competition, going from Jessica Andrade and Mara Bueno Silva, Ariana De Silva, Fatima Klein even. This is a big step up. This is Manon Fiorot, who just barely lost to, Valentina Shevchenko in the last fight. So I think we're going to find out a lot about where Jasmine's currently at, and I'm going to say she wins. I'm going to say Jasmine wins this fight, picks up 2 rounds, and wins this fight by decision. Up next, we have Aman Zahabi going against Marlon Vera. We got Zahabi minus 130, Marlon Vera sitting at plus 110. And yeah, this is another pick'em type fight that it's very tough. And the reason it's tough is, and I see people really confident on one side or the other, mostly the Zahabi side, but you can't be too confident in my opinion because you don't know, which version of Marlon Vera shows up. If the version of Marlon Vera that shows up is the checked out version, the version that really doesn't look like he wants to be there type thing, the version that fought Figueiredo, the version that fought O'Malley, the version that fought Sandhagen, the guy that just didn't show up, kind of looks like he's showing up for a paycheck. Yeah, if he goes in there and, plays at range with Zahabi, doesn't let his hands go for 15 minutes, yeah, Zahabi can win that decision. But my worry here for Zahabi is, if Marlon Vera shows up and we get the Marlon Vera that fought, guys like, Frankie Edgar, Rob Font, that Davey Grant fight was crazy. If we get a motivated Marlon Vera, a Marlon Vera that wants to win, that wants to be there, this is a very winnable fight for Marlon Vera. Absolutely. If he can let his hands go, if he can mix in the grappling here or there, if he can land big shots on the feet, those elbows on the feet as well. Marlon Vera can win this fight. It just comes down to Is he going to start quicker? Is he going to wait till the third round to start fighting? Is he not going to fight at all? Those are all questions I have for Marlon Vera. So it's kind of a stay away from me in a sense that I don't know. I don't know what version of Marlon Vera is going to show up. He does seem motivated this week, but I could also see him just being a very frustrating fight where he goes out there and just goes tit for tat with Zahabi somehow for 12 and a half minutes. And then he's like, okay, maybe I should start fighting now. And then he does, and he has success. But that's kind of my worry with Marlon Vera at this stage. So this is a must-win situation for Marlon Vera. If he loses this fight, not only will he be on a 3-fight losing streak, but this will be his worst loss in a very long time. This will be his worst loss in a very, 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 very long time. It'll be his worst loss since probably Marco Beltran back in 2014. If he loses this fight, it's going to be a bad look for Marlon Vera, and I think he knows that. So I'm going to take Vera to win this fight. I do think it's going to be a close fight. Vera's going to lose the first round by default. He always loses the first round, and I'll say he starts going a little bit in the second round, picks it up, and I'll say he really goes in the third round, steals the last 2 rounds. But I think it's going to come down to round 2. I think this fight's going to be won and lost in round number 2. Zahabi wins round 1, Vera wins round 3. Who's going to win round 2? I'm going to lean towards Marlon Vera, but this fight has split decision written all over it. We are in Canada, which, you don't love if you're on the Vera side, but I'll take Vera to get it done. Give me Vera to win by a close decision. All right, co-main event. Before we talk about it, if you guys have not already, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment. If you might get featured on Comment of the Week, and definitely does help the algorithm. But we got a great co-main event, I guess, between these two. We got Mike Malott going against Kevin Holland. And this is probably the fight I feel the least confidence in, because how can you be confident in either one of these guys, especially Kevin Holland? Kevin Holland, he's pound for pound probably the least trustworthy fighter. I think I'm getting sick breaking down this guy's fights, and I almost got sick going back and watching that D-Rod fight. Kevin Holland shows up as a minus 600 favorite against D-Rod, and this is a guy in Kevin Holland who's literally asking for easy fights. He's literally asking for easy fights. He's asking for washed-up fighters, and the UFC listens and says, okay, we'll give you a 40-year-old Danny Rodriguez. And what does he do? He goes out there, and not only does he lose that fight, he gets his ass kicked for the first 10 minutes of the fight. D-Rod hurts him bad in the first round, out-volumes him in the first round. D-Rod hurts him and drops him twice in the second round. Kevin Holland's down 2 rounds. He needs to finish in the third. He hurts D-Rod with a nasty uppercut, and instead of going for the finish, he does these stupid-ass flying knees that aren't even close to landing, letting D-Rod recover. Literally just a couple punches away from stopping the fight. But these just dumbass. This guy's a dumbass, man. Kevin Holland's the biggest dumbass in the UFC, and he knows it. We all know it. So I will not be laying money on Kevin Holland ever again. Losing to D-Rod. That's the last. If you're losing to D-Rod, I don't trust you to beat anybody on the roster at this point, especially not Mike Malott. And I don't have much faith in Mike Malott either. Mike Malott, I question the heart, the durability in his own right. I question the cardio. The Magny fight was an awful look. And I think this is a matchup Kevin Holland should be winning, but if you're not beating Danny Rodriguez, how can I pick you to win a fight ever again? So, and I think Kevin Holland's declining. I know it's crazy to say he's only 32 years old, but I absolutely think he's declining. This guy's had over 40 fights at this point, and he's just fighting too much. Fighting a lot, it's cool for a little bit. During the COVID era, it was cool to see Kevin Holland fight every other week, but that's going to start adding up. This is a guy in Kevin Holland. I think this is going to be his 4th or even 5th fight this year. And another thing we got to mention is Kevin Holland just fought D-Rod 2 months ago. He took a ton of damage in that fight. He went to war with Danny Rodriguez. That's the type of war that guys should be taking at least 5-6 months off after. And another thing is, this guy Kevin Holland has shown up to fights with multiple injuries before. He fought with a broken hand in the Ponzinibbio fight. I've gotten word that he might have been compromised going into the D-Rod fight, which made a lot of sense, hearing that after the fight was over. So, I don't know. I can't trust Kevin Holland. I don't know why anybody would. So, by default, I'm going to pick Mike Malott. With that said, watch Holland. Holland probably wins this, but I'm not picking him. I'm going to pick Mike Malott. I'm going to pick Mike Malott to win this fight by submission. I think Kevin Holland's a black belt, but his ground game kind of stinks. I'm going to say Mike Malott takes him down. I'm going to say Mike Malott chokes him out, gives Holland like his 5th submission loss in the first round. So give me Mike Malott to win by submission. And what a fight, man. What a fight. Kevin Holland, get some help, man. Get some help. All right. Main event time. If you guys have not checked out DFS by the numbers, be sure to do so. Come join the Discord. Trying to keep growing the Discord. The Discord's been, popping over the last couple months, kind of trying to keep growing that. For $20 a month, to get access to all my UFC stats, write-ups for all my bets that go in the Discord, my best bet, and article and confidence ratings where I break down the entire card, give my best bet, the prediction, the round, the method, confidence ratings, long shot props, all that good stuff. First notice on all the bets. I do my bet write-ups and stuff too. And yeah, access to Discord, betting alerts, and all that good stuff. Going to be adding some new things coming up within the next couple weeks as well. So yeah, check it out, dfsbythenumbers.com. It is absolutely by far and away the best way to support me, and you're getting a lot of content as well. All right, main event time. We got Reiner de Ridder going against Brendan Allen. And yeah, de Ridder is a guy that kind of reminds me like Adrikas in a sense that you just don't pick against this guy. I mean, does he have the best striking? No. I actually went on record to say he has some of the worst striking in the division. Getting outlanded by Gerald Meerschaert was a very bad look, but then he goes on to knock out Bo Nickel, with a big knee to the body. Then he goes out there to compete in the striking with Robert Whittaker, landing multiple knees to the body, hurting Robert Whittaker on multiple occasions. So, although the technique is very weird, it's very unique, it's something we don't really see anymore, he makes it work for him. This guy's massive, and I think that size has been his biggest weapon thus far. This guy's not a middleweight. At least he doesn't look like a middleweight. This guy's towering over his opponents. I'll never forget the Bo Nickel fight where de Ridder literally looked 3 weight classes bigger than Bo Nickel, and he's going to be a lot bigger than Brendan Allen here as well. So, yeah, who's the better technical striker? Brendan Allen by a mile, but, it's probably not going to matter. I mean, de Ridder has more power. De Ridder is very dangerous on the feet with those big knees to the body, has a lot of power in his hands as well, and Allen's been knocked out multiple times. Got knocked out by Sean Strickland, got knocked out by Chris Curtis, and I think de Ridder can absolutely knock out Allen. Let's talk about the grappling. I mean, de Ridder's grappling is next level, and I think although he doesn't have the best wrestling, Allen doesn't have the best takedown defense, so I think de Ridder can get takedowns and get them fairly easily, actually, because Allen's probably going to welcome the takedowns. I mean, Allen's very confident in his ground game, but I don't think he's going to be that confident once, this big-ass dude gets on top of him. I think de Ridder, if he can get on top here, I think he can start to slowly wear on Allen, slowly cook Allen a little bit, and I think a finish is going to open up eventually. So, yeah, actually, I'm not the biggest de Ridder guy, but I'm smart enough to know to not get in this guy's way. I mean, this guy's going to be fighting for a title. Let's just all accept it now, and I've accepted it. He's going to fight for it. Probably becomes champion one day, which it makes no sense to me, but it's just going to happen. So I think de Ridder's going to get through Allen here. Allen's taking this fight on short notice. Allen seems a little bit overly confident here, talking a lot of crap this week. I don't love that because he has a monster in front of him in de Ridder. So I think de Ridder, although his cardio stinks, I think he has better cardio than Brendan Allen, especially on a full camp. I think de Ridder is more dangerous in the striking. I think de Ridder's more dangerous in the grappling. So yeah, I got to go de Ridder. Give me de Ridder to win this fight. I'll say he wins this fight by second round KO. And can't wait to see what they do with de Ridder next. I really want to see that de Ridder Fluffy fight. That fight would have been just incredible. So maybe we'll run that back once Fluffy's all ready to go. But yeah, I want to see that fight. I want to see it bad. But for this fight, I'll go de Ridder and de Ridder by second round knockout. There you guys have it. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys can do me a favor on your way out, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment, check out dfsbythenumbers.com. Have a decent amount of bets this week, mostly totals, a lot of totals sticking out this week. Going to be another light-ish week for me for UFC Vancouver, and then we have a very good pay-per-view coming up next week. UFC 321, Tom Aspinall, Cyril Gane. I think we got Mackenzie Dern, Verna Jandaroba on there as well. So yeah, looking forward to that card. And Contender Series is over, so I'm going to be getting back to the old content schedule instead of Thursday releases. Probably get back to the Monday, Tuesday at the latest releases there. So that's good. But yeah, guys, best of luck for UFC Vancouver. Enjoy the fights, and we'll talk to you soon. See you later.